Hello everyone and welcome back to Coding Monk. So this is part 8 of this series, and in the previous parts we have learned how to create this chats component, okay, and also how to create this sidebar in which we have rendered this tabs under which we have different things like media, links, docs, and also start messages. And we also learned how to display this kind of dialog in the previous video. So now in this video what we are going to do, we are going to develop settings part. So as you can see in the Figma file that I have shared, okay, you can find its link in the description box. So we are going to develop this page settings, okay, and we will be displaying this list of options to our users. And after that we'll also be developing this dialog box, okay, in which user can switch between different themes, and there will be three options: light, dark, and the systems theme. And we are also going to see how we can develop this kind of dialog box and display this UI, okay, for keyboard shortcuts that we will be building in the next parts, okay. So I hope this is clear. So you can reference this design in the Figma file, okay, link is given in the description, okay. So as you can see, we have this page slash app which is basically rendering general page component, okay. So this is rendered on the slash app route. And now what we basically want to do is whenever someone visits this route slash settings, okay, in our application, then we want to display this page, okay, as you can see this part and this right side, okay. So we want to display that kind of UI here instead of this 404. And what you can see here is that even if we visit a different page, the layout part is still constant. So that is why we are using layout, so that we have to just place it once over all of our pages, okay. And then after this we are able to reuse this layout again and again. So we just need to focus on building the settings page. That means this settings bar and also this right side. So the first thing that we can do here is we need to create a different page. So let me close all these different tabs for you, okay. And now you can go to the source directory, and inside that you need to move inside the pages. Now after that, inside dashboard you can create a new file with the name of settings, okay. So we are just going to do that. And after that we just need to create a functional component here, okay, with the name settings. And now we are going to write some JSX here to render that page. So before writing any code here, I just want to render this settings text instead of this 404. So what we are going to do, we are just going to move inside this routes folder, and then you need to go inside this index.js file. Now here what we need to do is, just like we have defined this route slash app, okay, so in the similar manner we are going to define another route which will be settings. So let me write a comment here because this code that we are writing here is not valid yet. So we just need to set the path to settings, okay, and then we will be using an element, okay, this will be imported shortly, and its name is going to be settings. So now again we need to load our page here, okay, or basically import it using this loadable and lazy function that I explained in the first part of the series. So what we are going to do, we just need to rename this to settings. And also here, as you can see, we have just created this settings JS inside this pages slash dashboard. So we are going to navigate to pages slash dashboard and then choose settings, okay. So now you can uncomment this and save this index.js file. So now after our code is compiled, we are going to again go to our application, then we will be visiting this slash settings page again. And now this time around we are seeing this settings text, okay. So that means we are successfully able to render this page instead of rerouting it to 404, that means not found. So now we can start building our page from here, okay. So we just need to focus upon this. Let's see what we are building. So we just need two things, this container and the right side one. You can view it like this. There are two boxes, one on the left side, this highlighted one, and the other one which is on the right side. Okay, so we are going to align these two in a row So for that purpose we are going to use a stack here. Okay, so let's use a stack, and as you already know, this stack is going to come from material UI. So we have imported it from material UI, and let's also move this react if statement to the top. Okay, after this I'm going to give it some props. So the first one is going to be the direction, which will be row as I just explained, and after that we will be giving it a width of 100%. Okay, so I just want to make sure that it's taking the full width available to it. Okay, now after this I'm going to write two comments here: left panel, okay, and right panel. So these are just the two boxes that we just discussed, okay, that are going to be rendered inside the stack. Now for making this left panel, this highlighted one, we are going to use a box, okay, which is very clear from the look of it. So box is again, it's a div like component, you can say, just a simple plain box coming from material UI. Okay, so we have taken this and now we need to give it some styling. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do is give it this sx prop, and then we are going to give it a few properties. So the first one will be overflow. Why? This will be to make sure that when the screen size is small, okay, then the content doesn't overflow, the behavior will be scroll. And in this case we also need to define a proper height. Okay, that means a defined height in order for this scroll to actually work. So we will give it a height of 100 vh, which is basically defined by the browser's height or the viewport height. Now we are also going to need to give it a width. So in this case I'm going to give it a width of 320, that means 320 pixels. Now after that we can also give it some background color. As we have seen in other parts, we are going to make use of our theme. Okay, so for that we are going to need that theme here. So let's get it using the use theme from material UI. So I'm just going to first use it, and then we can import it here. Import use theme from MUI/material/styles. Okay, and now after we have imported this theme, you can just call use theme and you will get your theme inside the component. So we can access the palette property right here. Okay, then we are going to check the mode, and if it's light then we can use this color here. Okay, f8 FAFF. So this is from our design. We are going to use this color theme.palette.background. Okay, so we can make use of that. So let's save this. You can see a very faint line, right? So this color is different, then this box is a different color, and then this white box. To make it more visible we are going to give it some box shadow. So let's give it another property, and before that I'm going to format this code so that you can read it properly. Now we need to give it some box shadow. So box shadow, again this will be coming from our design. So 0 pixel, 0 pixel, and 2 pixel, and then we can give it some color. So it will be black color, pitch black color, with 25% opacity, right, just like this. Now after saving this you can see that we have given this box shadow, and now it's looking much better. Okay, after this we just need to start rendering the content inside this box. So for that, as you can see, all of the content is properly aligned in a vertical direction. So we are going to make use of a stack again. Okay, so inside this box I will use this stack component from material UI, and here we are not going to give it any direction because we need vertical direction, and this is by default vertical. Okay, the stack aligns its children in vertical by default. So I'm going to give it some padding and some spacing. So padding and spacing, I think that is already clear from the previous parts. And here we will be rendering different things. So for that I'm going to add some comments here. So we will be adding this header part. Okay, header means this arrow icon with this settings title. Okay, and then after that we are going to add a profile section here. So let's also write a comment for that. So this will be the profile section. After that, there is going to be a list of options. Okay, list of options inside settings. So let's now focus on each of these three things one by one. So how to make this header part? It's pretty simple. We just need a stack to align an icon button and a typography in horizontal direction. So let's get a stack. Okay, and after that we are going to give it a direction of row. Okay, then align items center and also some spacing. So we are going to give it a spacing of 3, that means 24 pixel, because I have already told you in previous parts. And again, here 3 means 3 times of 8, that means 24 pixel. This is as per the MUI guidelines. Okay, so I'll be teaching this more in depth in a separate series which will be dedicated for material UI. So now we are going to make use of this icon button component, which is again going to come from the material UI library. So we just need to pass an icon here and it will be clickable, and we can pass various properties like on click, okay, to this icon button. So that will make our job easier. So now what is this icon called? So this is called caret left in Phosphor React. Phosphor React is the icon library that we are using for this project. Okay, after this let's also give it some size. Okay, so I'm going to give it a size of 24 and a color. So let's give it a color of this hash 4v4v from our design. Okay, so this color. Now I'm going to save this, and let me also make this very clear that this caret left is an icon which is coming from the Phosphor React library, so you need to import it at the top just like this. Now after saving this, if you go back, okay, and look at your page, then you will see this icon button. You can see that we are able to click on that. So that is basically the purpose of this icon button component. Now another thing that we need here is typography, which is again a component from material UI. So it will be imported from MUI slash material core package. Now we need to give some content here. So this will be settings, and to style it, we are going to first of all assign it a variant. So here we are going to give it a variant of h6. Okay, and let's see. Yeah, it's looking good. Now after this we can focus on building this profile part. So this is very clear that these two typography are going to be aligned in a vertical direction. So we can wrap these two text or typography inside a stack, okay, with the direction column, and there will be a parent stack, okay, which will be wrapping these two together along with this image, and the direction of that stack will be row. I hope that is also clear. So let's now put it here. So we are just going to need this stack again, and as I have just explained, the parent stack is going to have a direction of row. Okay, and let's also give it some spacing. So I'm going to give it a spacing of 3, and then after this we can use the avatar component, which is again from material UI. Okay, so we can just pass alt attribute and the source attribute, and it will display a nice circular image for us. Okay, so let's now pass it some source and also some alt attribute. So as you are already familiar that we are using faker library in this project, so I'm going to make use of this faker library from @fakerjs/faker. So now you can call this image, and then we can also get this other property avatar over it, and we just need to call it. Okay, then only it will be giving you some image URL here. And in the similar manner, we can also, you know, we can also get a fake name here. So let's write faker dot name dot full name. Okay, and also call it here. And let me also make this clear that this faker library needs to be imported at the top like this. Now let's save this, and you can see in our page we get this nice little avatar. We just need to adjust its size, okay, a little bit. So what we are going to do here, we are going to give it this property sx for styling it, and then we'll give it some height and width. So let's give it a height and width of 56, that means 56 pixels, and now it's much better. So after this, let's also get this another stack for wrapping the two text together. Okay, so here we don't need to provide any direction because it's by default column and we want just that. We are just going to need this spacing property, and I'm going to give it a little bit of spacing, 0.5, that means 4 pixel. Okay, now we can use this typography and again, this is a component from material UI. Let's also give it some variant. Okay, so the variant is going to be article here, and after this we are going to give it some name here. Okay, a fake name. So let's use this full name again here. I'm going to save this, and in a similar manner we can just print some random text which will be basically bio, okay, coming from the API later on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just access figure dot random. Okay, and then you can access a random word. So I'm going to access few words, and here we can also change this variant to body 2 so that it looks like our design. Now the next thing that we want is to render this kind of list, right? So first of all, we are going to need a list in which we will be having an icon and a title. Okay, so let's build a list, okay, inside this settings component. So what I'm going to do, so I have this list prepared already in advance because I don't want to waste time writing this list, okay, with several icons inside it. So I have just prepared it in advance for you. So let's also import these different icons here very fast. Okay, so all of these are coming from Phosphor React library, and you can actually write this on your own, or you can also copy and paste this list from the code. Okay, code is available on the GitHub and its link is given in the description box. Then this keyboard. Now this info, which is again going to come from Phosphor React. Now there are few things which are not yet available. Okay, so these are actually going to be the handler functions for opening the theme dialog and opening the shortcut dialog. So we'll see it later. For now, what we are going to do is we are just going to comment this line and then add this property on click, and we will assign it a function which is going to do nothing. Okay, this is just a function, valid function. So same here, and we also need to add this arrow here, right? Now, after we have this list, let me explain that why we have added these four properties here. First one is key, which will be basically used to render a list inside React. Whenever we render a list, we need to provide a unique key. Okay, this is just for the efficiency purpose so that rendering of the list is efficient. Okay, this is internally used by React. And then this icon, okay, which will be rendered along with this title. And for every element that we have, we are going to need to perform certain action. So that's why we are going to assign an on click handler function which will decide what is going to happen when a user clicks on that button. Okay, so let's now put this in action, and we are going to use this list here. Before using this list, we are going to need a stack again because we want to group all of these options vertically. Okay, so let's get another stack here. Here we are going to assign it some spacing. So let's give it a spacing of 4. Now we are going to map over this list, okay, that we have just created. So let's get this map function, and inside this we are going to destructure all the different properties that we have defined here, okay, inside this element of this list, 4 different properties. Okay, and now what we are actually going to return from it, JSX. Okay, so we are going to return some JSX inside this. Again, as you can see, we have to render an icon along with a title and also a divider. Okay, divider means just a line, or you can also reference it with HR. Okay, which is basically an HTML tag. So it's just like that. So what, and you can also notice that we are not going to need that divider at the last component. Okay, so when the last option is rendered, then this divider is going to be missing. Okay, so let's now, after we so now after understanding this, let's now render. So we are going to use this stack again. Okay, then we can use this on click handler, okay, that we have defined. So whenever someone clicks on the stack, then this on click handler function will be called. Now let's also give it some styling. So what we are going to do, we want to notify to the user that they are hovering over something which is clickable. So we are going to give it this property of cursor pointer. Okay, and let's also give it some spacing, have these two things in horizontal direction, and with these two things combined, this is group 1, and then this divider is group 2. So we need to align group 1 and group 2 in vertical direction, right? So we are going to need two stacks. So one stack for wrapping things in the vertical direction and one for the horizontal direction. I hope this is very clear to you. So now let me use this stack, okay, again, and here we are going to give it a direction of row, okay, just like that, and spacing of 2. Now we also need to give it this property of align item center. Now we can render this icon, and after this we can render the title. For that we are going to use the typography component from material UI. So as you already know, the content is going to be title, okay, this title. And for styling purpose, we are going to give it some variant, and variant is going to be body to here. Let's now save this, and you need to refresh your application, and now you can see that we have these different options available. Okay, these are rendered very nicely. Now there is one more thing which is missing, that is divider. So what we are going to basically do here, as you can see in our list, that we have this list and the last key is 7. So we will write a condition here. So what we are going to write, we are going to say if key is not equal to 7. Okay, if key is not equal to 7, that means it's not the last element in the list, then we need to render this divider, okay, from material UI. So let's save this, and now you can see this is looking even much better. Okay, so I hope you are enjoying this. So let's now focus on building the other part, which is this theme dialog and also this shortcuts dialog, right? Okay guys, let's now see how we can create this type of dialog box. And I'm pretty sure you already know that because we covered it in the last part. Okay, so let's navigate to MUI.com. Okay, so you can open your browser and search for MUI.com. Now here what I'm going to do, I'm going to search for this dialog, okay, and I have recently done it, so I'm just going to click over it. Now in this dialog documentation, we need to scroll to this transition section. Okay, now we are going to use this type of dialog box which will be sliding down, sliding from the bottom. Okay, so you can see its code here. Let me explain it to you, okay, what it's actually doing. So we just need this dialog component, okay, that's it, and we can place any content inside, okay, that doesn't matter. So we just need this dialog component which is coming from material UI, and we need to provide it some props like open, which will define whether it's going to be open or not. Okay, and what needs to be done, like when we are clicking or outside, okay, let me show you. When we click on outside, then this box actually closes. So this handle close function is being actually called, okay, because on close event was fired over there. And the same thing happens when we click on these buttons. Okay, here also, as you can see on these buttons, we have placed this on click handle close. Okay, now so we are going to actually use this dialog in our code base. So that was just an overview, okay, so that you are familiar with whatever we are doing. Now what we need to do is we need to navigate inside the source directory again, then create a new folder, and I'm going to name it sections. Okay, so sections, and inside this we are going to create yet another folder which will be called settings. Okay, now inside settings we are going to create actually two things. First one is theme dialog. Okay, so I'm going to call it just that theme dialog.js. and the other file that we are going to create is shortcuts. Okay, so let's call it shortcuts.js. Now let's start with the shortcuts first. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a functional component here. Okay, just like this. And now in place of this div, okay, we actually need a dialog box. So first of all, I just like to wrap my content inside this fragment. Okay, and because if I have multiple things, okay, to return, then they can be rendered inside one parent component. That's the reason why I always wrap my components inside this fragment. Okay, so now we can start with this dialog component that we just discussed, which is going to again come from material UI. Okay, so as you can see, we have imported it, okay, from material UI library. Now we just need to provide some props to it. So the first one is going to be full width. So this is a boolean prop, okay, and along with this we need to pass this max width. Okay, so these two actually works together. Like if full width is true, then max width will be is going to decide the width of the dialog box, and the possible values are the breakpoints. Okay, so for each breakpoint there is a fixed defined value, you know, like for extra small we have some value in pixels. Okay, so that will be the max width that this dialog box is going to take. So here we are going to fix it to md. Okay, that means the max width it will be taking is equivalent to the medium size. Okay, medium screen size. And the next thing that we need to pass it is whether it's open or not. So that is going to come as a prop to this component. Okay, and also this handle close function. So we are going to give this property open. Okay, and provide its value. And similarly for this on close handler, on close event, we are going to give this handler handle close. Okay, so handle close is basically going to be a function. Okay, and let's also give it some styling. So we are going to give it a padding of 4. So let's give it p4. Okay, and let's also give this keep mounted. Okay, so if you don't know what this is actually going to do, you can just hover over it and you will be able to see. Okay, so what is basically going to do is, like, when you are not able to see it on a screen, like when I haven't clicked on it, it's still in the DOM. Okay, like it's not removed from the DOM, it's just hidden. Okay, so that is what this keep mounted is going to do. Okay, and after this we also need this transition effect sliding from the bottom. Okay, so for that we are going to give this transition component. Okay, so we need to create this transition component, and you can see in the example this transition component can be created using the slide component, which is again going to come from material UI library. So let's also create this like as explained in the MUI documentation. So we are going to need this from material UI, and since we already have this react, so we are referencing forward ref from that. Okay, so now we have this transition component. Okay, and we are using it here. Now after we have done this, we can actually move inside it. So I'm just going to give it this thing dialog title. Okay, so we can use this to render a title for our dialog. So I'm just going to give here keyboard shortcuts. Okay, because that is what's written in our design. Let's see, yeah, keyboard shortcuts, that is the title. Now after we have done this, let's save this and also format it. And now we are going to actually use it inside the settings. So how we can do that, we can just actually import it here with the name of shortcuts. Okay, as we have created it just now. And as you remember, we need to pass it to props open and handle close. So open is actually going to be a boolean value. So let's pass it a constant value of true for now, because we are actually testing it here. And to handle close we need to pass a function expression. Okay, so let's just pass this empty function for now. Okay, we also need to pass this arrow. Now it's looking good. Let's move on to our page. Now if you refresh it, then you will be able to see this dialog box with this heading keyboard shortcuts, and you can already see that it's taking width equal to the medium screen size. So now everything is working till here, so we can actually focus on building this part. Okay, so let's actually move inside the shortcuts again, and after this we are going to use another component from Material UI, which is called dialog content. As the name suggests, we can use it to render whatever is going to be in the body section of the dialog box, and similarly there is a dialog actions component which can hold all of the buttons or any other component which will be placed at the bottom, right? So let's use this dialog content, and to this I'm going to again give some styling, and that will be just empty. So that means from the top margin is going to be 4, that means 4 times of 8 or 32 pixels, right? Now, as you can see, we need to actually align things in a grid fashion here. So you can visualize it like this. We have this whole section here. Okay, this is box 1 and this is box 2. So as you can see, box 1 is taking half the width and box 2 is taking the other half. So for that purpose, I'm going to actually make use of the grid component from Material UI here. Okay, so we can just pass this container, okay, which is going to denote that it is going to have several children. Okay, in this case there will be 2 children, and this is spacing of 3. Now what we actually need is, we are going to, you know, render things like this will be a one box. Okay, like mark as read along with its keys. Okay, this will be all wrapped inside one stack, so that will be group 1. And similarly this mute and along with these 3 keys, this will be wrapped in another stack, and that will be group 2. So we basically need to align group 1 and group 2 in grid. So group 1 is going to take half the width and group 2 is going to take another half, and that process will repeat, okay, for each shortcut, okay, that we have in our list. So just like in the previous case, I already have this list with me. Okay, so let me just copy and paste it here for you. So I have created this list in advance. Okay, so what we actually have, each element is going to have a key. Okay, and then a title, and along with that it is going to have a combination property which will basically list all of the keys that we need to press to actually perform this action. So I think this is self-explanatory, and let's now use this list to actually render what we need on our screen. Okay, so I'm just going to use this curly bracket because now I'm going to write some JavaScript inside the JSX context, and now you can use this map function because list is an array, right? And now I'm going to destructure all the properties that we have defined for each element, that is key, title, and the other properties, the keys combination. Okay, now you can actually use it. So again we are going to return some JSX here. So inside this JSX, as I have already explained, everything is going to be a grid item. That means all of the content will be wrapped inside a grid item, obviously, and it's going to take half of the width. So I have given it this XS, that means extra small, for all the screen sizes starting from extra small to infinity. The width will be 6 out of 12, that means 50%. Okay, so that is, I think, very easy to understand. Now after this we need to actually align few things in horizontal direction. As you can see, we are going to group several keys, okay, inside a stack, and then we are going to give it a direction of row align item center. So by doing that we will be able to align all these keys together, and then to group keys along with the title we will need another stack. So that is what this is going to do. Okay, so let's also import it from the Material UI. Now as I have just explained, we are going to actually give it some styling. So first of all, let's give it some width. So I'll make sure that it's taking 100% of the width available to it. Now after that we are going to give it another property of justify content. This is going to be space between. Okay, and let's also use the key that we have defined. actually we need to pass this key to the parent element. Okay, so I'm going to make this box. Okay, and now we can pass it this key prop. That's okay. Now after this we need to give it some spacing, so let's give it a spacing of 3, and then direction of row as I just explained to you. Okay, direction of row, and then align item center. Now after this we can start by rendering the title. Okay, so let's use this typography, which is again going to come from material UI. So we can just render the title. So let's use this title that we have destructured here. Okay, and for styling, as we always do, we are going to give it some variant. In this case, variant is going to be caption. So let's write caption here, and for the styling part we are going to actually give it some font size of our own. So let's give it a font size of 14. Now after saving this, let's see what we get. So you need to again refresh it. Now to fix this, let's actually also render these buttons. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to use another stack here. Okay, so this is stack, and as you already know, we are going to give it some spacing. Let's give it 2 here, and then direction of row. Inside it we are going to map over this combination, which is again a list containing strings. So we are going to use again this curly bracket to write JavaScript here. Then we will call this combination and map over it. Okay, so let's get the string with the name el, or you can also call it elm, whatever you want. I'm just going to call it el, and then we are actually going to return a button for every combination or every button that we need to press. Basically, let's render the content here, and for button we are actually going to make it disabled. Okay, we don't want to actually click on it. And for the variant we are going to actually prefer content button here as our design suggests. And for the styling, let's give it some sx. Okay, we are going to give it, for the styling, let's give it this property color. Okay, now after we have done this, let's save this and see what we get. So I actually spotted the error that we are actually making. We are placing this grid item inside this box. Okay, and each grid item has to be a direct children of its parent, that is grid container. So let's actually place this grid, or let's actually remove this box. Okay, and let's save this, and now it's looking much better. Okay, so now that UI issue is solved, after this we can actually just pass the key directly over to this grid element. Okay, and one more thing, we need to pass the container property to it. I removed it by mistake. Okay, and now actually focus on building this dialog actions part. Okay, so we can actually write after this dialog content. Okay, we can make use of dialog actions, which is again another component from material UI. Okay, inside this we are basically going to render a button. Okay, which is going to say just okay, and its variant is going to be contained. Okay, and when we click on this button, then the handle close function will be called. That means this dialog will be closed. Okay, so we are getting this handle close from props. Let's now refresh this page, and now you can see we also have this OK button just as per our design, right? But we are not able to actually open it, okay, or close it. So let's fix that. For that we just need to navigate inside the settings. Okay, again, and here we need to actually define a state. Okay, and some handler functions in order to open and close the dialog box. So let's define some state here. So I'm going to call open shortcuts and set open shortcuts. Then we can make use of this use state from react library, and initially we are going to set it to false. That means initially the shortcuts dialog will not be opened. Okay, Now here we can define handle open. Okay, handle open shortcuts. So what this is going to do, as the name suggests, it will just set the value of this open shortcuts to true. So let's do exactly that. And similarly we can also create a handle close function, handle close shortcuts, right? Let's also correct the spelling here. So here we'll just set the value to, now we are actually going to make use of this values. In place of this hard coded value, we are going to use this open shortcuts, which is going to be actually variable, and in place of this handle close we'll pass handle close shortcuts. And in order to open it, we are going to actually we are actually going to change this property on click for this keyboard shortcuts. Okay, this is contained inside this list, and this is the reason why I have placed this list inside this component, because if we have it outside the component, then we won't be able to access this function. Okay, handle open or handle close, anything like that. So I hope this is very clear to you. So we can now actually comment this on click and enable it, handle open shortcuts. So this is actually going to be called when someone clicks on this keyboard shortcuts. Okay, now there is one last thing. We want to render this shortcuts dialog conditionally. That means only when the value of open shortcuts is true, then we want to render this shortcuts dialog. So let's now save this, and I'm also going to format this. Let's also remove the warning that we are getting in this. We are not using this box, okay, but it's in the import statement. Let's also format this file, save it. And now if we go back to our app and refresh it, now if you click on this keyboard shortcuts, then you can see this is coming from the down. Okay, it's like sliding, and when you click on OK, then it's closing. So this is the exact behavior that we wanted. So let's build this theme dialog in the next video. Okay, because I think this video is actually running pretty long. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, and make sure to like this video and also subscribe to this channel. And please make sure to leave your comment down below, because that is going to motivate me. Also, please make sure to share it in your network so that this content will be useful to more people. Thanks for watching this. I'll see you in the next video.